Having worked extensively as a fundraiser before you then became a grant making trustee, were there any surprises you experienced from being on the other side of the fence?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, I've sat in the fundraiser side where you create something, you send it to a colleague, they send it back with comments and changes. You incorporate that, you send it back, you maybe proofread it. You're quite kind of you can get quite into the detail. And on the other side, reading them, I was really struck by how quickly I was reading them.
Right.
And it really got my attention. I kind of wrestled with this a bit. Should I be reading these slowly, word for word? And I kind of came to the view that really it is kind of the fundraiser's job to kind of grab my attention, really. And fundamentally, our brains are lazy. They're trying to save calories all the time, so they're essentially my brain is almost looking for a reason to say no to this application so that I can stop reading it and move on to the next one. So at times we're getting 100 120 applications, and there's a significant amount of time to go into that. So that's quite depressing actually for me as a fundraiser to realize, gosh, there's stuff that I have sent around people and really painstaked over, is just kind of being read quickly to decide what does or doesn't go in. I think I've been really struck by what kind of ticks a box for me. So, for me, it ticks a box if it kind of hits things that I'm passionate about, interested in. For me, it ticks a box actually if I've heard of the charity or not, or if I've maybe heard of some of the people leading it or not. And one of the things started doing in terms of my work, and or if I'm advising other fundraisers, is if your charity is not well known, actually within a funding application, can you lean on the credibility of someone else? So maybe you come out of a larger charity, or maybe you work with a well-known charity, or maybe you've got a kind of patron or someone who's kind of well-known and trusted who'd be willing to lend you a testimonial. Because essentially what this is social proof, right? So what we're doing is saying, I don't know this charity, I don't know this charity leader or this fundraiser, but actually in this application, there's someone else who says that they're good, and I know that person and I trust them. So I don't need to make that decision myself. It's a kind of kite mark. And I think the other thing that surprised me is how many applications that I'll read, and I end up really not knowing what the charity does, what the project does. And I think that really surprised me. And I've kind of learnt, when I'm doing funding things myself, is can the person reading this close their eyes and visualize what it is you do and what it is you want to do? And we can so quickly kind of launch into some of that. And there's a lot of jargon, and there's a lot of, as you'll remember from our report last year, and I have no idea who you are. Don't be so up yourself. So yeah, I think for me, just really making that piece clear. Is it simple to understand what you do and what you want to do? And it really amazes me how few kind of meet that bar.
Yeah, yeah. Well, it's that challenge when we're an insider, and this is one of the things we often talk to the people we're training is you live and breathe this day in, day out, whereas the person receiving it, how long do you spend on an average grant application, would you say, reading through it?
So I timed myself one time. I think it was about 3 minutes, which is awful. Like that's embarrassing to admit, isn't it? But
Well, I don't
really,
think so. I think it's. Again, this is one of the things we teach in training. Is at school you're kind of rewarded for length. That is what you're taught. But when you get into the real world, it's give me the concept as quickly and as simply as possible, and I'll tell you whether this is something that's going to be of interest. And so we've got to kind of unlearn all those bad habits from school to write effective applications.